Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the deserts of the Southlands. Strap in, it's about to be a wild one. The Sheikhs, Emirs, and Magus of Araby have united in a loose coalition to deal with a threat never before seen from the shores of Al-Haik to the ruins of Bel Aliad. War elephants, flying carpets, Jezzail sniper teams, Jinn, Ifrit, nomad mercenaries, camel gunners, and every regiment that could be mustered have gathered to defend the riches of their homeland in a battle of north and south. First sign of their coming was a torrent of mist and rain, shrouding these arid desert kingdoms, and then Albion made landfall. Savages painted in woad, abominations from the swamps, hordes of barbarians, of screeching shield maidens and crude chariots, and giants marching to war. It's a 3v3 battle with Araby and Albion, lost factions of the Warhammer world, come together at last to make a glorious mess of things. So big shout out to my Discord for helping me organize these battles, and this will not be the last one with OVN Lost Factions, but it was a fantastic showcase of the power of modding and quite the spectacle to boot. I am playing as Araby in a 3v3, holding down the center with an Arabian Sheikh on his war elephant and one stylish ass howdah to top it all off. Big pimpin'! This is basically a war mammoth, slightly worse in melee, definitely better from range, and a gorgeous model as well. At the rear, march his Arabian Guard, standard upper tier halberd unit and 2 units of Jezzails. Their job is to snipe out high value single entity monsters and lords, and they're quite damn good at it. Holding down the center are the Dervisher Fanatics, unbreakable dual-wielding masters of the blade, and a Magus with his Jinn lamp in tow. He can call on that desert spirit once per battle and channels the winds of the desert itself. Pretty unique lore of magic too. Can summon 7 regiments of Mirage Spearmen who don't deal any damage, but are great for tar pitting and blocking charges. His Quicksand can pin enemy units in place, and his Blessing of the Elements bestows magical attacks map-wide whenever he casts a spell, which is very useful against the physical resistance of Albion. On my left flank, march the forces of Doomed World, Camel Gunners, Pit Fighter Slaves, a heavier emphasis on archer play with the Desert Nomad Archers and Dune Scorpions protecting his rear. A few Grand Bombards with bonus for large and AP to snipe out monsters from long range. On my other flank, Recurring Extra has an Ifrit. It's a fiery spirit that loves the smell of naphtha in the morning. Kind of picture a flaming feral manticore and you've got the idea of what this thing's all about. It's also unbreakable, which is pretty good. And some trebuchets and a genie to boot. Yes, indeed. Robin Williams from Aladdin is actually on the battlefield. Unfortunately, its current implementation is relatively useless. Horrendous melee stats, doesn't cause fear or terror, and 2 minutes after game start, it nukes itself to death. My only guess is that of now it's unfinished, but who knows? Maybe it has some hidden tricks up its sleeve. We'll keep an eye on him, and the Promethean hatchlings Arabian merchants sell to the highest bidder. Now, on the Albion side, Bigot Banksy, Rat Smacker, and Spooks are teaming up with savages from the land of mist and shadow. A lot of huntresses in the front ranks, good skirmisher unit. They can focus fire elephants and other large single entities pretty well. Behind them come the warbands of Albion, led by a true slayer of the lore of life and a chieftain, Hearthguard halberds, and stone thrower catapults. So at least on this side, gonna have a bit of a rudimentary artillery duel, and it's gonna be the Virgin catapults fighting it out with the Chad trebuchets. Exquisite machinery that can fling 90-kilogram projectiles over 300 meters. In the center flies Morrigan the Phantom Queen, a hot fanfic waifu on a pitch black eagle. She has spells from Beast, Death, and Shadow, along with the Omen of Doom debuff, Omen of War buff, and Murder of Crows that follows her and her mount around. Pretty scary lore. Now, I don't know if that's actually meant to be an eagle or just a gigantic ass crow, but either way, it does look pretty terrifying, and she can mess stuff up in melee and with her spell casting, so pretty powerful overall. Her armory is comprised of Woad Warriors, Berserkers, and Fen Hulks, constructs of rotted moss and timber infused with the spirits of those who died in the swamps, Viridian Lords, who are a great weapon chosen, essentially, the chosen of Danu, the Earth Mother, with regen and weakness to fire, Albion Giants, and all the way on the other side, Centaurs harrying the flank. So as you can see, these archers, these huntresses, are vanguard deployed, they're stalking up, and they're ready to unleash into the lightly armored Arabian defenders. And that is one thing that will characterize this battle. Both factions are very low in the armor category, besides a few of these large single entities. The vast majority of the infantry here are very, very squishy. So range firepower is really going to mess them up. Now the cannons, or the great bombards rather, are going to fire into the Fen Hulks and try to eliminate the threat from those large single entity terror-causing monsters. They're a problem. And take a look at this jank. These are the Arabian flying carpets. Actually pretty decent in melee, all things considered. Have some pretty powerful missile damage and mobility as well. So very versatile unit and pretty elite, pretty expensive to field as well. Now obviously this is a mod, it's not CA's work, so there's going to be a little bit of jankiness to this all. There's going to be some kit bashing and stuff that you wouldn't see from a legit DLC, but still, decent amount of these units are about as good as you'd expect from an official release. So, you can see the Giselles are already firing into the Albion Warband, and they're going to make their mark super early. Typically, want them to be firing into high HP, high armor single entities, where they can really focus fire them down, but the Albion Warband are in the front ranks, and on this side, it's mostly infantry that are the threat, so it's probably a good idea to slice down some of these numbers, neutralize the threat from the infantry, and then win that artillery duel between the catapults and the stone throwers. So, these Albion Warband getting torn up. On the other flank, on the other side of the battlefield, camel gunners. If you remember them from the Moors in Medieval 2, they are brutal, and they are pretty brutal here as well. Highly mobile snipers with high-powered rifles. They're going to mess you up pretty good, and centaurs already routing off the map. Got a little bit too close to that white line. In the center, I am playing against Rat Smacker, and looks like a chieftain is charging right up the middle as the Warband and the Berserkers charge in behind. These Woad Warriors have high physical resistance. Believe they have bonus versus infantry with their dual swords too. So them, backed up by the Hulks and the Abominations, will tear through the Arabian Warriors super quick alongside an Albion Giant. That thing is a monster. High physical resist and Kryptonian Frost Breath is a brutal combination, and it will be the end of many of these warriors in the front ranks. So the melee grind is going to go the way of Albion, no two ways about it. They've invested heavily in monster and anti-infantry play. It's just a matter of time before the Arabian Guard, the Dervishers, and Spearmen begin collapsing under the weight of this assault. But the Bombards and Giselles' job is to plunk away at the Hulks and the Giant so that the Elephants can strike that killing blow in the latter stages of the battle. Which means the range play and the Cav for Araby need to make a big impact here. They need to be kept alive. That layered defense from the Sultan on the right appears to be working for now, while the Abominations and the Fen Hulks in the center push through, and the Ravager of Kasabar Elephant about to go stomp some Smurfs into the desert sand. The Giant and his Fen Hulks, they just completely smash their way through the Spearmen, no problem whatsoever. Now even the Camel Riders are a little bit too close to the front line. Huntresses have pushed up and focus firing them down. They're like 1,400 gold. That's not a unit you want to be losing this early if you can avoid it. They can deal so much damage to those single entities if they're given time to fire. The Arabian Magus in the center, waiting to do some more casting, summon some more mirages, and basically just put a bunch of bodies on the field to tie down the enemy. Stone throwers and the trebuchets blasting apart Albion forces on the right. And Pit of Shades, a nice one from Morgan, will catch out 2 Giselles and even a few Royal Cataphracts. Al-Mukhtar's Desert Dogs waiting in the back. You might recognize them from the Dogs of War roster. They are here fighting for Araby because those sheikhs have some serious coin to spread the lovin' around. And that Fen Hulk in the center, 2 of them actually, fighting back to back and tearing through with the Flock of Doom. But the Elephants are about to go in and fight, which is not really where they want to be. They'd much rather be stomping through infantry. They have 525 weapon damage. They will murder these Viridian Lords, but the single entities are a bigger threat, so that's where they're going for now. The Sheikh gonna duel one of them, while the rest of the Abominations try to push through and get into the back line. On the right side, I'd say a recurring extra is doing the best of the Arabian forces, but that won't stop his genie from peacing out. My work here is done, but you didn't do anything. It just kind of died. It just sat there. It didn't even get attacked. It just died. I don't know. I don't know what that thing does. Like, it's literally a pointless unit right now. What's not a pointless unit is the War Elephant, the Ravager of Kasabar Regiment of Renown. This thing is a war mammoth through and through. It is a seriously powerful pachyderm, and ripping through Viridian Lords is what it's good at doing. Morgan on her giant crow, giant eagle, whatever you want to call it, she is bathed in the blood of her enemies and shutting down the grand bombards, allowing the rest of the giants and the Fen Hulks to push through. And now they're starting to get into the range stuff in the rear, which is where Araby's armies might start falling apart. This has been a powerful rush build from the forces of Albion, and right now I'd say they have the advantage because they're collapsing these boxes down, they are pushing into the back lines, and beginning to destroy the ranged play, which Araby really needs if they want to take out all these single entities. They don't have a lot of good, effective bonus versus large outside those Giselles and the artillery. These elephants are going to be a nightmare for Albion. Like I said, they've invested a lot in the monster play, but those are anti-infantry monsters. They've invested a lot in the anti-infantry like the Woad Raiders and the Berserkers, and that is where war elephants will feast, and feast is what they have done so far. Centaurs sense an opening though, and they smell blood in the water. They've got an opening to get in at the artillery, and the Giselles on the left flank of recurring extra, right through the remnants of some slave spears, and into the back. Trebuchets and the Giselles have no chance unless they receive some reinforcements right now. Another pit of shades from Morgan going down in the middle. The Ifrit would be very useful, very welcome addition to help them out, would cause some terror and maybe cause these Centaurs to run for the hills. But I noticed what was happening and I said, okay, we've got to make sure our artillery stays online. Al-Mukhtar's Desert Dogs riding to ruin all over the Centaurs' butts, and the Ravager of Khas-Bar also getting in alongside the Arabian Sheikh, and that might be enough to shut down the aggression from those Centaurs. Morgan has been feeling the effects of those sniper rounds though, continuously bouncing off the flank of her bird of prey, and you can see she is covered in blood, not just from her enemies, but from her own mount. She's been getting sniped out for a long time, and that's honestly needed because she has an obscene winds of magic pool she can cast all day long. Can't afford to let her stay alive as a magic missile from a Magus on the ground. Sunstrike gonna hit the bird and deal some damage, but it looks like he might die. Now, a Genie Spirit has been summoned from my Magus in the center. That is a Desert Spirit fighting it out. Maybe this one will do something. It has 3 kills, so, you know, that's 56 melee defense. I don't get why it doesn't cause fear or terror. Like, I really think that unit's just not complete yet. It's an ethereal unit that doesn't cause terror, which makes it pretty pointless, but as a summon, I don't worry about it so much. Anyway, the Giselles are getting butchered. I mean, look at this thing. It's a rotted corpse god filled with loam, moss, rotten timber, and every other swollen, obscene thing from the swamps. Crazy to look at, and it's crumbling, but it's done a lot of damage to my infantry, to the rest of my army. Morgan is getting close to life support, but she shut down the Great Bombard. My Sheikh is in the center, and I'm realizing, okay, the Huntresses are beginning to focus fire on him. He needs to escape. He needs to get out of the situation. If he gets pinned down now, it could be game, set, match. Royal Cataphracts having to get committed to the fight. They don't want to be fighting these abominations, but they really don't have a choice at this point. The monsters of the Fen are going to kill my lord if the Cataphracts don't go in and pin them down, so they have charged in, and that will give my Arabian Sheikh the chance he needs to escape and rally alongside the other large single entities, which might be the only chance we have. Another Sunstrike going past the Eagle. Not a lot of damage, but it's almost impossible to dodge it. Look at how fast that thing went. It's like bullet speed, and it's dropped Morgan down to 425 HP as the Giselles continue to fire in, and she is perilously close to that white line. One more volley might be enough to send her scurrying off the map entirely, which means all that casting potential will go to waste. Now, she's already made a big impact on the game. She's been a good lord so far, 40 kills or so, and caused some fear, shut down some artillery, but yeah, she's gone. She got sniped out. Now, this is where everything is coming to a head. Albion Giants stomping forward, another Desert Spearman Mirage, blocking the charge of the Giant, tying down whatever they can. There are about 4 or 5 more casts of those remaining, and they only cost 2 wins of magic, so I'd say if there's one spell you really want to bring with the Arabian lore of magic, it is that Mirage spell. Super good. It's kind of like Vermintide, except your summons won't deal any damage whatsoever, but they're the only thing that's holding down the left and preventing that Giant from stomping through. You can see Mass Rout is kicking in, all that terror causing the Dervishers and the rest of the Desert Infantry to flee. Many of them will not come back to the fight and the elephants continuing to run away, realizing they are in a lot of peril. The Hearthguard, Halberds, elite infantry for Albion giving chase to the Arabian Sheikh, but they're not going to be able to catch up to the elephant too easily. Nice charge from the Centaurs, going to kill the regiment of renowned Jezzails, and now we just have to go in. There's nothing for it. There's only one way to win this game, and that is get all the elephants together in a rampaging stampede and push back the tides of Fen Hulks that are stomping our way. Only a handful of range units remain, but another Mirage Summon coming in, and now 3 elephants grouping up, and that is one angry herd. Oh, it's going to be so glorious. Halberds can't fight this. They may be elite. It doesn't matter. They can't brace when they're getting charged from the flank and the rear, and already getting tied down by the Mirage Spearmen, and only in a handful of seconds, those Hearthguard melted to the charge of those war elephants. Still though, Albion is continuing to push. They sense the end. If they can get the Viridian Lords together alongside the Fen Hulks and the Giant and gang up on the elephants, it should be enough to kill them. But those elephants are going to fight back to back, and they're leading the Mirage Spearmen into the midst of everything alongside the Ifrit. So, Bounce Bar, little bit in favor of Albion, but I'd say this is dead even about 10 minutes into this battle. 2 of the casters are still alive, and that means more Desert Spearmen Mirages will charge into melee and block the attacks of all these monsters. That Giant needs to get over here. There's only one important target, the Arabian Sheikh himself. Once the Sheikhs are dead, the rest of the elephants should probably run. Viridian Lords dealing with the Ifrit, that Fire Spirit, that Fire Djinn, and each side, their eyes bearing witness to this grotesque spectacle caught forward from the darkest corners of each other's empire. They have never borne witness to the freaks of nature each side are fielding right now, but both Albion and Araby are holding firm, determined to see this through. Leadership for both sides has seen better days, but they're piling in now, and we've got a monster mash, and this is going to decide the outcome of the game. Did you ever in your wildest dreams think that we might see Araby and Albion fighting it out on the battlefields of Total War Warhammer 2 in the shadows of Nehekara under the pyramids themselves? It's crazy. There's a Giant duking it out with 3 elephants, a Fen Hulk abomination, an Ifrit Fire Spirit, just at both sides monsters trying their best to carry the day, and it's still completely up in the air. All the infantry's routed for both sides. The Mirage Spirits have disappeared. I'm not sure if the Magus have any more to add to the fight. Giant goes down, but he's not dead. He's just been knocked over. He's getting back in, but he's routed, and that's beginning to swing it in the favor of Araby. The elephants are beasting it. The abomination is about to crumble out as well. The huntresses are getting forced to commit to melee, but they have a constant aura around them where if they're losing in melee, they hit more of a leadership penalty. They're gonna rout soon to all this terror, and it's looking like Araby on their home turf might just be able to eke this one out. Mass rout incoming, Crumble City for the Fen Hulks, and it's gonna be enough. The 3 elephants back to back to back, carrying the day, and army losses kicks in for Albion. Even Flying Carpet's coming in for a rear charge, and that'll be the end of the battle. A crazy 3v3. Really fun, really close. Look what's left. A handful of Arabian Guard, a handful of Al-Mukhtar Desert Dogs, and the 3 elephants with a mage who has no winds of magic and a Ifrit with 100 HP. It's literally all there is, but barely enough to eke that one out. Super fun game. So, thank you again to Recurring Extra, Doomed World, Ratsmacker, Bigot Banksy, and Spooks for joining me in that battle. Had a blast with it. And what impressed me more than anything were the elephants themselves. My Arabian Sheikh, with that Howdah on the elephant, charged in, got 72 kills, and he was fighting single entities for a large portion of that game. But you saw the Ravager of Kasabar, when I got that rear charge on the Viridian Lords, it was 2 or 3 attacks, and that entire unit of Chosen, essentially, Chosen great weapons, melted away. 97 on Recurring Extras Arabian Sheikh. Bigot Banksy had a lore of Lifecaster and an infantry-focused build. His Centaurs got very good kills. Stone Throwers certainly weren't bad there, and his Shield Maidens, 94, 86, and 70, so they were certainly very useful. Albion Warband definitely beat up on the front ranks too. I think it's very clear that this mod is doing what it can to differentiate the factions and give them a unique playstyle that tries to conform to the lore. Now, obviously, like I said, there's some jank there, the Jinn that don't literally do anything. They just crumble out of existence from the word go and don't have a stat line that makes up for that fact either. But for the most part, the Elephants, the Giselles, the Camel Gunners, a lot of this stuff, the Fen Hulks, Abominations, the Albion Giant, the Huntresses, the Shield Maidens, they really make a large impact on the battlefield, and they have a unique role that gives some serious flavor to what this faction brings to the battlefield itself. So back and forth battle all game long. We got to see the single entities do work, got to see the Giselles snipe out Morrigan, the cannons take down some of the big giants and the monsters, and the overwhelming superiority of Albion in melee, swarming in with the Fen Hulks and the Giants and the Chariot, the War Leader, trying to push through and get rid of all the mobility and the range play for Araby. On both sides, some great plays. Let me know if you want to see more.